If you've been trying to make sense of Canada's immigration changes this year, trust me, you're not alone. We can all agree that there's been a lot of noise on caps, targets, temporary resident limits, express entry changes, and it can feel like everything is shifting at once. Hey everyone, Rachel here, video content creator at Moving to Canada. And here at Moving to Canada, we try to break down immigration news in simple, easy to understand ways so you can stay informed without getting overwhelmed. So Canada just released its 2025 annual report to Parliament on immigration, which is pretty much the government's yearly check-in on how the immigration system is doing and where it's headed next. The report is huge, full of data and policy details, but the main takeaway is pretty simple. Canada is rebalancing immigration to keep it sustainable and aligned with the workforce. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the biggest takeaways so you can understand what changed in 2024, what's happening in 2025, and why these decisions matter. So let's dig in. Before we jump into the numbers, here's a quick refresher on what this annual report is. The annual report to Parliament on immigration is the federal government's overview of how the immigration system performed, what worked and what didn't, and what the priorities will be moving forward. It also includes the Immigration Levels Plan, which lays out how many permanent residents Canada hopes to welcome over the next 3 years. Now, one of the biggest themes from the report is that Canada is essentially resetting the scale of immigration. Not necessarily shutting it down, but adjusting the pace. Starting in 2026, Canada plans to stabilize permanent resident admissions at 380,000 per year, which is a little bit lower than the 395,000 planned for 2025. But this is all about keeping growth steady and manageable. At the same time, the government wants to reduce the number of temporary residents, which includes international students, temporary foreign workers, and visitors. And the goal is for temporary residents to make up less than 5% of Canada's population by the end of 2027, compared to 7.5% in 2024. Within those updated levels, Canada is increasing the shape of economic class immigrants to around 64%. So the focus is very much on strengthening the labor market and long-term demographic stability. Now, in 2024, Canada welcomed almost 484,000 new permanent residents, which is a small increase of about 2.5% compared to 2023. Here's how those numbers broke down. The majority were in the economic class, followed by family reunification, then refugees and protected persons, and then humanitarian and other categories. Meanwhile, gender representation was almost perfectly balanced, just over half women and just under half men. On the temporary side, things did shift quite a bit. Study permits dropped by about 24% year over year, largely because of the new intake caps. Work permits also dipped slightly, and visitor visas and ETAs saw a small decline too. So overall, 2024 was a year where temporary migration slowed down, while permanent resident numbers stayed steady. Another clear theme from the report is Canada's increased focus on people who are already here, aka workers and students who have been contributing to the country. In 2024, over 160,000 temporary workers transitioned to permanent residency, along with more than 25,000 international students. So the pathway from temporary status to PR remains strong, especially for people with Canadian experience. Express entry also played a big role. The report confirms that nearly 135,000 people became permanent residents through express entry last year. And what's interesting is the number of category-based draws, which were 19 in total, which targeted people with French language ability and experience in key sectors like healthcare, education, trade, STEM, transport, and agri-food. So if you're someone who already has experience in Canada or working in one of these in-demand sectors, the system is still very much geared toward you. The report also highlights the ongoing effort to spread immigration beyond Canada's biggest cities. In 2024, the provincial nominee program continued to grow, welcoming more than 114,000 newcomers. The Atlantic immigration program brought in just over 8,000, and the rural and northern immigration pilot added more than 4,000 before it was replaced by new rural and francophone community pilots. Francophone immigration outside Quebec also saw real progress when it reached 7.2% of total admissions, which actually beat the 6% target. In total, more than 30,000 French-speaking newcomers settled outside Quebec, helping support Francophone communities across the country. And Canada's long-term goal is to reach 12% by 2029. Finally, the report also talks a lot about settlement, because it's not just about bringing people to Canada, it's about helping them succeed once they get here. In 2024, the settlement program served nearly 695,000 newcomers, offering services like language training, employment support, and community integration. Over half of the clients were women, and 69% of French-speaking newcomers used Francophone settlement services, up from 63% the year before. That's a positive sign in terms of accessibility and inclusion. Overall, the 2025 annual report shows a clear shift in how Canada is managing immigration. It's less about rapid growth and more about stability, making sure the system stays strong, communities can keep up, and people who are already in Canada have clearer pathways to stay long-term. For newcomers and future applicants, this may mean a more predictable system. For communities, it means immigration that keeps pace with housing, jobs, and public services. And for Canada overall, it's about balancing growth with capacity. Anyway, I hope you learned a thing or two from this video. As always, we try to break down immigration news and these long reports into something simple and easy to follow. A big part of how we do that is through our daily newsletter, where we send regular updates, tips, and breakdowns so you always know what's happening and how it affects you. And so we highly encourage you to subscribe and join our community. You can do that by heading to movingtocanada.com and finding the little sign up box on the homepage where you can enter your email and answer a few quick questions. I'll also leave all the relevant links in the description below, especially if you want to look back at the numbers or charts yourself. And as always, if you found this video helpful, feel free to like the video, drop a comment, and let us know what kind of content you'd like to see next. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.